Alright guys, let's make sure our name, date, and period is on the paper. By way of review, you remember we've learned how to multiply a binomial times a binomial. It's distribution. We have FOIL to help make sure we do all the distribution correctly. First times first, outside, inside, last. We end up with some trinomial, x squared plus something x plus something. We also talked about how to go from a trinomial to a binomial pair, multiplying. We see that it's x squared, so the first term is x. Then to find the next terms, we ask what two numbers can multiply to give us the c term, and add to give us the term in the middle. This next unit is continuing along the same factoring we see here, except now there is a number in front of the x. That is why it's called a greater than 1. The first coefficient is a, the next is b, and then the last constant is a c. Previously we've only done coefficients of 1 that have been hidden right there in front of the x, so we always knew it would be x and x, but now we have a number as a coefficient in the a term. To solve this, there's two methods that we can use: slide, divide, slide, or guess and check. For this first example, we're going to use both methods. For slide, divide, slide, let's write the example: 2x squared plus 15x plus 7. The slide is referring to you take the a coefficient and you multiply it times the last term, the c. So in this case that would be 7 times 2, 14. So we're left with x squared plus 15x plus 14. Now that we've slidden it down, we're going to factor it like normal. The first term is an x, so we know we've got to have an x squared rather, so we know we've got to have an x and an x there. We ask what the factors of 14 are: 1 and 14, 2 and 7. Then we look at the middle term to get 15, which pair would add to it: 1 and 14. So we write down 1 and 14. That is the slide step. Now we move on to the divide step. In this step, we take whatever the number is that we had to slide to begin with, in this case a 2, and we divide it by both numbers in the binomials. So divide by 2, divide by 2. Now we're left with x plus 1/2 and x plus, what is 14 divided by 2? 7. Now we're done with the divide step, and we conclude with one last slide step. This last slide step is where we take any denominator and slide it back to the front in front of the x. This is really multiplying both terms in the binomial by 2, but we're referring to it in this case as sliding it. So we now have 2x plus 1. This term does not have a denominator, so it stays the same. There's nothing to slide. That's our answer. And we can go ahead and check it here. 2x plus 1 times x plus 7. FOIL it. 2x times x is 2x squared. 2x times 7 is 14x. 1 times x is 1x. And 1 times 7 is 7. Combine the middle terms. 2x squared plus 15x plus 7. We see that that does match the original problem. Now for the guess and check method. This method, we need to first write the problem. 2x squared plus 15x plus 7. In this method, we move straight into our binomials and we try and guess and check. It does have an x squared, so we're inclined to think there's going to be an x and an x there, but it also has a coefficient of 2, so one of these we think needs to have a 2. Now 2x times x, if we multiply the first times the first, would give us 2x squared. And it's nice that we have our work shown over here so we can check 2x times x did give us 2x squared. Now we immediately list our factors of 7, 1 and 7. It's nice that we only have one pair here. The part that starts to mess with some students' mind is they say, well, 1 and 7 won't add to 15. Well, things are complicated in this example and in all examples where a is greater than 1 because you're no longer just adding these two numbers. This 2 is multiplying by one of them. We can trace the work over here. We got 2 times 7. It's not just 7 that's adding to the 1, it's 2 times 7. 14 adds to the 1x to give us 15x. So what we're thinking of here, do we place the 1 here and the 7 here, or do we place the 7 here and the 1 here? That has implications because 2 times 1 is 2. Then we would add that to 7. 2 plus 7 is 9. That's not how we want it. So it would have to go where the 7 is on the opposite side. So the way you can think through that is, you know you're multiplying times 2. So while they're over here, you're thinking, what is 2 times 1? 2. Plus 7, that's only 9, not 15. What about if we multiply 2 times 7? 14 plus 1, that is 15. So we know we want to multiply the 2 times the 7, therefore the 7 can't go here because in our foiling you don't multiply this first times this one, it's over here. Alright, all that being said, you know those are the factors. If that was confusing to you the way we thought through it, don't worry about using the guess and check method. Go for slide, divide, slide. It works every time. As you can tell, it just looks like there's a little bit more work involved, whereas if you can see the guess and check immediately, you got your answer. Alright, that being said, use either method you want. Move on to example number 2. Pause this video until all of the people at your table have finished, and then push play to check your work. Okay, let's go ahead and use the slide, divide, slide method here. So for the slide method, we take the first term and slide it down and multiply times the last term. So that leaves us with x squared plus 7x plus 12. Then we try and factor. X squared, we've got to have an x and an x. The factors of 12, 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4. Which ones would add to give us 7? That would be 3 and 4, plus 3, plus 4. Next we're going to use the divide. Divide. Remember, what do we divide by? We divide by whatever the first term was that we slid over. So now we divide by 6, divide by 6. It's at this step you might not have reduced your fractions, but remember, we do want to reduce fractions at all times, including now. So x plus, what is 3 over 6 reduced to? 1/2. They're both divided by 3. And x plus 4 over 6 is reduced to 2 over 3. Now we do the last step of slide, and that means we're going to take the denominators and we're going to move them over into the front of those two terms. 2x plus 1 and 3x plus 2. That's our final answer. you could check it to see if it matches. Now you're ready to move on to the rest of the examples and then the problems on the back.